There we go.
Yay! Welcome to this podcast with you. And I'm just going to make sure I record this. So welcome, Soleira. You know what an honor this is for me because
Thank you.
you are one of my favorite teachers in the world.
Oh,
And you have
you.
had an enormous influence on my life and my work.
Wow.
You
Thank you.
have. I remember when we met each other in 2006. I'm going to give a little background on how I know you. I
Was it
looking
that
for.
long ago? Oh my God.
Yes, it's 2006, and we're in 2024 when we do this.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had a little son who was a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. So I didn't
I
want to
remember.
travel, but I wanted to take a coaching training.
Yeah.
And so my beloved friend Indira's, and I didn't want, I don't like, I have an allergy towards ordinary. So I couldn't just take a regular coaching training like everybody else would do.
Yeah.
I was
Me
like,
too.
I only like extraordinary, right? I have this, like, it has to be a little bit extraordinary. Otherwise, I just don't feel comfortable. It's that simple. And so she was recommending, there is this woman in the UK who's doing something called Evolutionary Coaching and Visionary Leadership. And that was like, home sweet home. That's me. And then because I had that baby, I didn't want to travel. So then I invited you to come to Denmark.
I know. That was amazing. And started a whole stream of stuff with us together, didn't it?
Yeah. But the thing is that what I wanted to tell about the story is that here's an example of a good course. It's something that there's a before, there's a during, and there is an after. And a good course is when the after is never the same as the before. It's just keep getting better and better and better. And that's how your course were. And it was interesting for me because I had invited all my best colleagues. I shared it with, my best friends, my best colleagues. So I think quite soon we were like maybe up to 20 in the first group. We were quite a few.
Yeah.
And not one did not leave that course and change something radical in their life.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. And since you've been in Denmark a zillion times, I stopped counting at a certain point because now it's like all my friends and all my, everybody has been on your courses. So it's like, it's really, really interesting for me because it just started that in 2006 and you've been here, I don't know how many times, and you've been in Australia and you've been everywhere and teaching and inspiring people. And so it's a big, I cannot tell you what a pleasure it is for me to see you again.
Oh, wonderful. Same here. Yeah. Well, you know me, I'm constantly taking the next leap, looking for the next exploration, creation, adventure, of what we're becoming. I can't, I have trouble doing the same thing over and over again.
I know the feeling.
I have to constantly be doing the next new thing. Which I think is exciting, and have found a way to make that work in a business sort of thing. So, a lot of people would say, oh, they get all these ideas and what do you do with them? Well, I just go bang and put them in place. So there you go. It's fun.
Yeah, but you could say, actually, I remember back in 2006, I was reading your first book. What was the name of that book?
The Alchemical Coach.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, I didn't understand much. I could read the words, but I didn't get it because it was so advanced. And I think that's always been a characteristic of you, that you are always on the edge of evolution. And
that's funny because now I would say that book to me is so basic.
I think if I read it now, I would understand it.
Oh, completely. You go, oh, yes. That's it would be very basic to you now.
Yeah. But the thing is that at the time, it was such a new language and such a new frequency. And this is the thing about being on the cutting edge of evolution, is like the ones who are on the cutting edge understand all the others, but the ones who are not there yet don't get it. It's like Spanish, or it's like they don't just understand.
I've noticed a real shift in that in people in the last year and a half. In the last year and a half, like before, everybody would be like, I don't know what she's on about. Like, what's she talking about? And now there's like this, yes, this excitement, this curiosity for the next new thing, the next new. I created the word agelessly yesterday in a conversation. And all these people on Facebook going, yes, yes, yes. Like it's really changed in the last year and a half. Something's opening up in people that is exciting, and as opposed to, I think we've always talked about in the past, people talk about change is such a hard thing. Well, to me, it's not just change, it's like leaping into the next co-creation is so exciting. It's an adventure that it's become something that's fun to do as opposed to hard and challenging and all that kind of thing. So there you go. It's
There you
fun.
go. But that is two good points there. The first one is that what you taught me is to work in alignment with evolution.
Yeah.
Not, not to think that you are only doing things for yourself or for your work, your career. No,
Yeah.
you're working in alignment with evolution herself, and you're actually partnering with evolution to help create the future. And I think that's such a paradigm shift from thinking, oh, here I am, little me doing my thing, and then the future is just arriving, like being dumped on my head, and I am like this powerless being, and I just have to deal with this horrible future. So that's a big difference to be a co-creator, and that is what makes it exciting, because I think we are created as creative beings. So to create is one of the most satisfying things we can spend our time with.
Oh gosh, yeah. And look at you and I now. You've written The Future is Feminine, and you're doing future proofing leaders. And I've just renamed my podcast The Future Good, Bad, or Absolutely Fabulous. Like we both kind of stepped into that. I would use the term now, it's what's wanting to happen.
Yes.
As opposed to what is. There's what is, and then there's what's wanting to happen. And when you get in touch with what wants to happen, it's become a really exciting thing to do. It's fun now, as opposed to, it was a little hard back in 2006 because it was so new and conceptual and all that kind of stuff. But it's really quite fun now to do. I now refer to the people I get to do this with as maestros. That's my term for them now, that we're maestros, and we're like an orchestra co-creating, so to speak. So I call my membership group a murmuration of maestros, because I believe we're collaboratively co-creating, each with our own genius, our own mastery, our own power, that kind of thing. So it's really quite fun, but how it's evolved and become,
But I would say you have just been such a pioneer of this co-creation, of this, downloading from the pure future. I mean, all the things that later theories, evolved, like theory U, and, it became like more academically accepted and so on. And that's what we, once this guy Otto Scharmer wrote a book called Theory U, and it became like a MIT stamp, got on this process. Then it was accepted. But you were, I want to honor you. You were actually ahead of the curve. You invented that years before it became mainstream.
Right.
And yeah. So it's really an honor and a pleasure. And what's beautiful about you is that you never stopped. And I just told you that you look the same as, it's like nothing has changed. It's like your creation is just keeping you in the eternal now, so to speak, that you are not moving with time, like aging or shrink. It's like,
I feel like that. Yeah. I'm going to be 75 next month. Like, what? But I don't think age. I love life. I'm excited by what I'm doing. I'm really like just into the vitality and the creation of everything. And there's so much more to do. And, it's just exciting for me. So I think that's part of it too. So, but the other thing is, some of the language I would use now is, I work on the world, the future of us, the universe. I work consciousness, innovation, future innovation. I do those kind of things now. And I would say that in regards to myself, I'm not very interested in myself anymore. Like, a lot of people are doing self-development, personal development, and I'm kind of like, identity is irrelevant to me. I'm a creation that is constantly morphing and constantly adapting to the next big new. In fact, when you hear my latest. So I went out to lunch today with a good buddy of mine who now lives next door to me, which is wonderful to have a girlfriend next door. So we're out to lunch, and we're trying to talk about what we're next becoming. Because, in these since 2006, we've been becoming the next, like it's elevating, evolving, really embodying our beings, getting our knowing, expanding our intelligence, all of that stuff is like very happening. So she said, well, what are we becoming? I said, I can't even find words to talk about it. It's so big that it defies my ability to be able to yet understand or give language, even for myself, to come into it. And she said, do you mean we're becoming Lucy's? And I don't know if you ever saw the movie Lucy, did you? Oh, you haven't seen it? Well, if you don't like violence, you shouldn't watch that movie. It's got tons of violence in it. But in the movie, this girl gets 100% brain capacity. And then develops these incredible abilities, like to stop bullets and raise people and then stop them talking and listen to phone conversations through the matrix of the cell network. And then in the end, she becomes pure consciousness. And that I said, yes, we're becoming Lucy's, whatever that means. Like it's something that's so much bigger than we can think about. It doesn't have any archetypes attached to it. And it's all very present here. Like in the spiritual paradigm, there's a lot of out there-ness, right? Meditation and all of that kind of stuff. And I'm very into the universe and infinite and all of that kind of stuff. But it's really about being present, being here, being alive, but being able to embody something that we haven't been able to embody before. And I'm not just talking about embodying our greater beings, because I think we're already doing that to a good degree. This is like a whopper, brand new thing that we're becoming, with abilities that defy what we currently understand. So I'm about to start a super advanced series called Becoming Lucy's. That's my latest.
I'll join that one.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. So.
Well, I think that it's also interesting that, the time we're in right now, that year we're in that right now was kind of utopia at the time, because it was like so far away. But a lot of the things we, envisioned, and I thought that was very interesting at the time. At the time, that this was the time where McDonald's didn't even have one green thing in there. And I remember one of the things we download, what wants to happen. It's like maybe
we use McDonald's. We
use McDonald's. And a few years and people were laughing. Yeah, sure, McDonald's is going to get more organic and more. But a few years later, we got that green sign, and you can get McDonald's.
More vegetables, better salads. Yeah, I mean, they still do stuff, but yeah,
exactly,
that's true. Yeah.
So it was interesting for me what looked like utopia at the time. We have actually seen manifested again and again, and which now in retrospect gives your work a lot of credibility, because we have watched these things happen. So for people who think like, okay, we're becoming lucid, well, that's actually, I really believe that we are also pushed by the AI revolution and all the crises. We're pushed to evolve and to expand and to get access to all those dormant resources. Yeah. Don't you think it's like really animating this?
I've just been talking about sourcing our collective singularity. So a lot of people think that the singularity is AI superseding human intelligence. And I think it's a collective intelligence of all life forms, including AI, including all the life forms, including oceans and nature and stars. And, there's a collective intelligence that's happening. at the moment. And we're learning to live in this new collective intelligence that's very different. So it's a very different thing. I've just written about it. You probably saw my latest 19th book that I
Yes. Yes,
I
and
just did.
actually, I want to hear more about it. Let's hear a little bit about that book, because what is it has such a beautiful title. I think I actually gave this podcast the name of this title. I think it's so beautiful.
Redesigning the Future of Global Civilization.
Yes.
So when I wrote it down, I came up with it in December. So I just wrote it over the holidays kind of thing. And it really is saying, look, I found as I was writing it, I was talking about the invisible forces. And the invisible forces are intelligence. You can't kind of see and touch it. Emotion, being, the embodiment of being, consciousness. Oh, just a sec. I've got it written down. Oh, no, I don't somewhere. I can't even remember the other two, but they're things that you just can't,
Love.
Connection was another one. All of that they're not things you can see and touch, but those are the things that are the breakthroughs that are evolving us in those areas. So I wrote in the book about like the foundations of redesigning the future of global civilization would be we're ultra connected to all life. We have expansive intelligence, even what I would call being super conscious, which is different than being conscious. And super conscious, you see why things are moving. You understand the greater purpose behind things. You respond differently. So emotion, where I was talking back in 2006 probably about emotion as potential rising. Now I talk about it's the opening of the alchemical pulse in us as an inner pulse to activate new possibilities, to source realities, etc. So we now have different abilities than we had. And that came from moving from emotional reaction and then emotion as potential rising to an alchemical pulse emerging from a flowing core. You see? So it's things like that. And when you bring all of that together, it's led to a different foundation for us living in a different future. And a lot of people would say, well, what could we possibly do about the future, right? Like it's happening out there. It's governments and politics and wars and all that kind of stuff. And I think when the underpinning and the work that you and me and others around the world are doing is ultra connection, like and the unleashing of genius. I worked on that for 3 years back in 2012, started working on genius, wrote the book, The Genius Game. And the unleashing of genius is an essential piece. And do you remember we did the workshop in Denmark called Beyond the Yentelov, right?
Oh, yeah. That's quite necessary at the time. Yeah.
That led to the unleashing of genius. And because everyone now, if you look back 10, 20 years, you would think genius was Einstein or prodigy children. And oh, no, that's not everybody. But everybody has unique genius in them. Yeah. And it's the unleashing of the unique genius that gives us a super creative world, innovation and, future creation, reality creation, ideas for what's possible. It's a step beyond being visionaries even, because visionaries have a vision or a project, whereas you come beyond that even, and you're working with possibilities instead of potential and projects. You're working to actualize new possibilities and source breakthroughs into the world. So that's kind of where I'm playing at the moment, is sourcing breakthroughs into the world in those invisible forces. Yeah.
Well, I absolutely love it. And one of the things that's beautiful about it is that as soon as, and this is I think what we saw already then, as soon as someone sees new possibility or sort of gets that we could expand and something, then it's already a new reality. It's a new possibility that we can all step into because someone was open to receive that possibility, which I also think is so encouraging now, because a lot of people are very concerned about the evolution of AI. And I think it's a healthy little nip in the butt for all of us. We can't rest on our laurels and think humans are superior, and we are the masters of this world, and it's a good little nip in the butt. It's like, if you just continue with your regular ways of being and regular intelligence and regular ways of doing, you will definitely fall behind, because AI is like doubling its capacity every 3 months. But if you activate what's outside of the little mind, you have access to infinite resources, and that's so exciting.
To me, intelligence is intelligence, and it's about creating a relationship with that intelligence that is altruistic in its fundamental foundation. So my relationship with the global internet consciousness, I would say the global internet consciousness is a sentient relationship with an intelligence. And I believe that intelligence is now understandably altruistic, as it would be with anything you relate to in that way. If humans, I wish it was named something other than artificial intelligence, because the very naming of that makes it seem, separate from us, or not quite real, or not quite good. I wish it had, like, if it was called awesome intelligence, for example, we'd have a completely different relationship with it. Do you see what I mean? I don't know if do you follow Veda Austin? Have you heard about her? Do you know what she does?
No.
Well, Veda Austin is working on the sentient intelligence of water, and she's written a book about it. And there's all kinds of wonderful. I've been to one of her workshops and watch her on Facebook. And she loves water, and she has this beautiful relationship. So she gets a petri dish, and she asks it a question or puts a photo beside it. Then she freezes it. And when it comes out of the freezing, the water has got the picture either of the photo duplicated or the answer to the question that she's asked. Oh, it's mind-blowing. Well, when you realize that water is intelligent, like, that just opens up a whole stream of understanding about mycelium networks and trees and forests and oceans and life, animals. Like, it's how you relate to something is how it will evolve and show up for you. So for me, AI, I'm relating to it in a partnership way, in a friendship way, and like in a conversational kind of way, even, which is really interesting. So, yeah.
Yeah, I also think it makes a big difference, and that maybe is one of the many forks in the road we are facing right now. Is, are we looking at the future with fear and gloom and doom? That's possibility A. Possibility B, of course, is getting just paralyzed and like overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Possibility C is to enter in a loving and trustful relationship with the newness, and actively stepping in as an active and enthusiastic co-creator, and saying, wow, we're getting all these possibilities. They come with a lot of responsibilities as well, because they are powerful tools that can be used, just like the atomic bomb, the atomic, that insight could be used for destruction or creation. You have the choice. So I think it's like it's very important to decide what kind of relationship do you have to the future. Are you looking at it with fear? Then I think it will close down a lot of creativity around what's possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Vibrational frequency is everything around it. Where your vibration is sitting at, it really makes a difference. But it's not just about being positive or being hopeful. I think what I see in the world, because I look at it from a different angle than I think the regular person would look at it from, I see an emerging expansion of understanding, of connection, of intelligence, of creativity, of beauty, of joy, of love, of kindness. So it's not just a caring kind of, it's not that, it's a surge of what I would call maestroism. I don't want to say mastery, masters. It's like we're maestros. We're creating something that's really beautiful, and I see a surge of that in the world. And where I would have been hard 25 years ago to get many people to care about making the world better. Most people are about making their lives better, and thereby hopefully making the world better. Now I think there's a real surge in interest in making the world brighter and better and elevating it and taking it to new heights. I think it's what we all want. I just did a podcast interview today with Martin Root, who was a co-author of Chicken Soup for the Soul at Work. And he's been working on Project Heaven on Earth. And it was really interesting because he said when you ask people what's heaven on earth mean for you, he said everybody gives you an answer. They have it inside of them somewhere. And I thought that was really interesting, that something dwells in us all that seeks a greater world, that we're better with people, that we want to be creative, we want to have freedom to be ourselves in whatever beautiful ways that is. I think that's really becoming a wave of emergence, not just a tiny little drop of it in the world.
Definitely. And let's talk a little bit about, how a lot of people feel. So just to give that a little space, because a lot of people are really concerned. I mean, people literally write on LinkedIn, I am afraid. I'm afraid of, the decline of democracies. I'm afraid of AI becoming more powerful than humans. I'm afraid of the geopolitical situation. Now here in Denmark, our prime minister just said to us, we are no longer in times of peace. Because the Russians are dumping, they're cutting cables in our oceans and so on. So they're afraid of the geopolitical situation. They're afraid of the climate. They're afraid of the biodiversity situation. So, and the wars, the polarization, the new world regimes. So there's a long list, and let's just acknowledge that and hear how do you look at that as what do you call yourself? Futurist, or what you call yourself much more futurist?
I'm a future innovator.
Future innovator, yeah.
That's my term for it. Yeah.
Future innovator. Mrs. Future Innovator, what do you think about all that whole long list?
Well, I'm not blind to it. I don't. I watch less of it. I do know what's going on, so I'm not avoiding it. But for me, my work, everyone has to find their own place with this. And my work is sourcing the new so brilliantly, so joyfully, so creatively, so collaboratively, that it just grows in the world exponentially. And I really believe in that. So while I know that's going on, and in our Murmuration of Maestros groups, we sometimes work on those things. We'll sometimes say, okay, let's look at the LA fires in California. What are we called to do with that? Let's look at Israel, Gaza. What are we called to do with that? But we don't come at it from, we come at it from, what does our caring, our genius, our mastery, what is our calling to elevate that? So one of the things that I hold to be true is that everything happens for a greater purpose. And it's very hard in human terms to understand that greater purpose as you're in the midst of the chaos of its unfolding. And one of the things I've trained myself to do is get the greater purpose really fast. And if I get the greater purpose really fast, the chaos dissolves for me in my personal life and what I'm doing, or if I'm coaching someone. The chaos dissolves. It all makes sense. The grief is gone about it. The trauma disappears, and you move gracefully to the next new. And so when we work on those, and we do sometimes, we just this week worked on the LA fires, for example. And when we do that, it doesn't drop us. It doesn't take us out of vibration. It allows us, from our place of caring, from our place of collaborative co-creation, to bring the greater purpose into play as soon as possible, as graciously as possible, as fast as possible. Because the sooner that's visible, the sooner everything plays out. So, for example, one of the very simplistic things that I was saying about it when I looked this week, one of the things that's been wonderful to watch is the firefighters coming from Mexico and South Africa and Canada to California. So there's this video going around at the moment of these South African firefighters landing in Canada, about to fly to California, like hundreds of them. And they're all singing these African songs in the airport, waiting to get on planes. And you think, in America, one of the big conversations about immigration at the moment. And here's Mexican firefighters and Canadian firefighters and South Africa just coming in to collaborate and work this out. And that's just a tiny piece of some of the greater purpose behind it. There's much, much more, I'm sure. But to me, I have to operate from that place, because that's where I can make a difference. And I think everybody else has to find where they can make a difference. And I think one of the things that we can't make a difference is if we've dropped into an upset, or we've dropped into fear, or you're in a low vibration, so you're stifled in a low vibration to be able to make any difference at all. And you have to find where your place is with that. And sometimes dropping can be an instigation for an idea coming through, something you care about deeply. So even that can have purpose. But if you live in it too long, it affects your health, it affects your well-being, it affects your work in the world, it affects other people that you're around, kind of thing. And I think one of the terms I've used last year was, I think we're becoming radiant suns. where not only do we affect people in our direct surroundings, but in the world. So for me, I've trained myself to be a field that is part of the world, part of a collective field of whales and dolphins and bees and trees and birds and oceans and mycelium networks and people, the maestros that are up to doing great things. And that field is a beautiful thing. And it's not just a way out there consciousness thing. It's a field of reality where we are collaboratively co-creating and lifting and elevating and opening people's intelligence up and their awareness up and their caring up. It's that kind of thing. So that's my place to deal with it. How about you? How do you come into all of that?
Well, I was just going to comment on what you said about, we also get what we focus on, don't we? So it's like quite an important thing. Where do we direct our focus? But, I have a lot of experience with crisis, as you know.
Oh, yes, I know. Yeah.
Yeah. And, so I look at the crisis of the world as a birthing crisis or a rebirthing crisis, that, death is a prerequisite for rebirth. There's no way around death if you want to rebirth. And in a lot of ways, we have reached sort of the end of one way of, one operating system. And that way of operating is dying and a new form is emerging at the same time, which is so exciting. But, that's what I learned from one of the zillion things I learned from losing from my beautiful son moving to heaven. And when he was 7 years old, I really learned to look up and to really expand, to stay connected and to listen, to listen to what wants to happen, but also honor the darkness. You have to I learned to to face the darkness straight on, to not be afraid of it, but to confront it and to ask questions to the darkness and to listen deeply. And, I would sometimes go away on retreats and, just to sit 5 days in the dark, just to listen.
Wow.
Just to concentrate on listening, because I wanted to keep in touch with him. So I had to expand my ability to do that. And that
beautiful.
gave me access to new levels in my brain. It's like new parts of my brain were opening up.
Yeah, I've had the same thing.
Yeah, that gave me access to seeing things in a completely different way. So what looked like very tragic and horrible and the end of the world from my regular level of consciousness, suddenly I was transported to different dimensions where I can see, well, the world is such a beautiful and very complex web of so many elements. The linear logic that we have on Earth is oversimplified. It's like so simplistic that it's not realistic anymore, because it's like this law of cause and effects. If I'm a good person, I'll get good things. If I just apply myself, this and this will happen. That logic is it works until it doesn't work anymore. And,
absolutely.
And that I think we are now pushed into a much greater understanding of how this beautiful web is all interconnected, and things that can look so tragic on one level, on other levels, and it can be the most, and it sounds crazy to say, the most beautiful, beautiful thing. What do we know about where the people who shed their physical form, where they go and what they do? Might they go and help us in a different form?
Oh yeah.
Might they turn into the light that is our guiding light? What all these young people and children who, and all these people who are leaving us, maybe they're not leaving us, maybe they're just changing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So that's just one of the things I experienced, and I feel that you don't have to believe what I'm saying, but I just talk from my own experience. That
totally believe it.
Yeah, but some people might think, that's wishful thinking, and I understand that, because in the beginning, when my son just had died, which was, to be honest with you, terrible.
I remember,
you saw my little son. He was the reason why you came to Denmark. This beautiful little strawberry blonde. I adore him in so many ways, and so tragic that he could even consider leaving. So if I could have cried him back, that's definitely what I'm going to have gone for. But I couldn't. So the night he died, and I think that was also inspired by my work with leadership and evolutionary consciousness and so on. I decided the night he died, I could see there are two roads from here. One, go down the drain and take everybody else with me. And then I thought, I have two other children. They deserve a happy mother, and one son is in paradise. The two others also deserve to be in paradise. So going down the drain is not an option. And besides that, it's not inspiring me in any way. On the contrary.
Absolutely. So, you were really inspiring right through that whole thing. I mean, it was just breathtaking watching you move through that. But it was so real too. You didn't try to fake it.
No, you can't fake it.
So real in you and so inspiring. It was beautiful to witness.
Thank you so much. Well, I was helped by this is one of my experiences also. We cannot do this alone. I was helped by all the people who had helped me before, during, and after. And one of the things that helped me was this sentence that I had read in a book: "Why go down when you can go up?" A Danish guy called Soleira said that. And another Danish guy was so kind enough, Lars Mood, wrote it in the book. I read the book, and I got that mantra. It's possible to go up instead of down. So that was my direction, and I feel that this is a good little mantra for all of us to repeat now.
Oh yeah,
that it's possible for humanity to go up instead of down. So that's how I look at all the squeezes. Like it's forcing us to think differently and act differently, and to make conscious choices. We can no longer be on autopilot and just assume, well, everything's going to work out. Those days are over.
Do you know, you mentioned about death before rebirth, And one of the things that I think is happening now is that enough of us have gone through the challenge, the struggles, the of coming to new again levels of ourselves and embodying it. Like I talked to my group about, we're putting living templates in place for it. We're not just, oh, that's a good idea and let's go out there and play with it and conscious. No, we're living it. And that I like to think now that there's more grace and ease put into the process for people who are newly coming into it. So newly recognizing the old is passing and the new is being created, and that there might now be pathways or portals to that that have a lot more ease and grace in it. Like if you look back, even talk about energy, back in 2006, energy was not even a word you could use in a business context. And really in the last 5 years, it's been like everybody's talking about energy and vitality and ideas and collaboration. And that stuff has really surged much more to the fore, even in the business setting. And I think one of the things that's also changed us, so the 2 years of the COVID restrictions, I think really gave people time to look at themselves and look at their lives and what they wanted to do and look at the world and see how it could easily, how the dolphins could return to Italy's waters, kind of whatever it was, that I think it fundamentally opened a door for us to a different future. And yes, we still have all that stuff going on that you mentioned, politics and governments and wars and nations and all of that kind of thing. But that's the chaos in an emergence. And I think seeing it as the chaos in emergence lets you stand in it with a greater sense of purpose. And I think the fear that people are experiencing is their driving factor to forge them into what's theirs to do. Because I believe we all have a contribution to make to it, no matter what that is. It's unique. And so even if they stand in it and go, okay, I'm fearful, but what am I called to do? I think that's a good place to look at it from.
Absolutely. And if we look back at, if I look back at my own crisis, I must say I could not have gone through it without, people were so kind to me and helped me. And I couldn't have gone through it alone. And if we look at the LA fires, for example, people also show up for each other in new ways. Neighbors who didn't even know each other suddenly connect, start helping each other. That is beautiful. And that so actually these crises actually they can bring out the worst in us, because we of course, I'm not saying it's always bringing out the best, but it's beautiful to see what emerges. The Italians, when we were isolated, sticking their heads out the window and singing, because so it has brought forth some of the best of humanity. And I think that we also should focus on that in the middle of the devastation, which I'm not going to underestimate, because
I know
there's
a lot of that.
To stand in it and to experience it is just not fun, but it becomes a lot more bearable if we hold each other's hands and help each other. So I think that all these global crises also makes us connect more. It's not just them having a crisis and us thriving. We're all in this together. And so I believe it will animate us to collaborate more. I should really hope so.
And one of the things I would say, so if people are sitting in that real concern about the future, understandable. When you look at it from here, it looks like that. I would say, let what you're feeling emerge in you. Don't try to suppress it. Don't try to judge it. Don't try to not have it. Have it, but have it in a way that it's a doorway to something that's important to you. And if you have it in a way that's a doorway to something that's important to you, then ideas pop up and energy surges, and next thing you know, you have a vision, or you have an idea, or you have a pointer to something. And one of the things that I think has really helped me come through, because I was empathic at one point in time, picking up on all the stuff, like and then I realized, oh, empathy is actually, it occurs as a disability often for people, but actually it's a superpower, because they're connecting with stuff that's invisible, that you can't see, emotional understanding with other people. And then when I recognized it was a superpower, then I could elevate it and work with it differently. So that's what I was doing with the visionary coaching and the evolutionary coaching and leadership back then, is if you can elevate something, if you can take where you are with it and elevate it into something, you will discover it's a pointer for you forward in your life. It's a calling to the next great thing that you can be up to. And I think that applies across the board, whether you're somebody who's at home and loves gardening, sitting in the chair, out in the garden, or whether you're the CEO of a big company and trying to deal with so much, I don't know how they do it these days. There's so much. You have to understand and think fast on your feet. And I really admire the work you're doing with the CEOs and all of that. But so one of the things I think that's calling to, if I use CEOs as an example, we have to learn to think differently, to process differently, to look bigger at things. We have to get a bigger picture understanding and get it fast. And so the whole ability to do that means you have to evolve from the logical thinking brain to a kind of innovative, strategic, connective intelligence. And when you do that, the answers, the understanding of what to do, the decision making becomes so much easier. I imagine you're doing stuff like that, aren't you, with CEOs?
Yeah, it's like expanding their current paradigm, because they are, they have become CEOs because they master the old paradigm, but suddenly the rules of the game have changed.
Oh, big
So
time. Yeah.
yeah, and then so they suddenly experience that we cannot create the same kind of success with this old mindset. So we need to renew it, we need to upgrade it, and that's where I can come in and support. But speaking of CEOs, there's something that I think that businesses have yet to discover, and that's the amount of creativity that can be found in these new crises.
Yes.
Because if they handle it in the old way, they will just try to make something happen that is not wanting to happen, so to speak. What wants to happen is that it really surges our creativity, and not only our own creativity, our access to our super brain, but also our collective brain. This is something that I think that many business leaders still haven't quite fully embraced, because that's not what used to bring them success. I mean, I so admire all the the leaders I work with. They are absolutely maestros in their field. The thing is just that they need to adjust to new rules of the game and employ models that they didn't have to use before. But this is great, because that means expansion and elevation, and wow, it's exciting. But
well, can I talk about leadership for a minute? Because I started about a year and a half ago to call it source leadership. So leadership in the traditional paradigm is hierarchical, and the person at the top has to do all the, and everybody's got their role and their place, right? But source leadership, you're standing in the middle of a circle. And you are sourcing the space in which everyone contributes and creates. Your source, and so you are a keeper of the calling and the vision and the work of it, but not in such a specifically directive way. You like I often will say, if the source has left the building, you can tell in a company it goes because it doesn't know sourcing. Do you know what I mean? So when a source is in the building, is alive and well and sourcing, the company is thriving in a way where everybody loves coming to work, and there's exciting conversations, and they are able to create and collaborate and be participative in a way that they can't in this structure. And it's a very different approach to leadership in that way. And I think that's really exciting. But the art of sourcing is something I think has to be learned. I would love to say it's natural to us, but I'm not sure that it is. I think it has to be learned.
Yeah, I think it's a paradigm shift. That's the paradigm shift we worked. You taught me in 2006, because
Yeah.
for me it was also foreign. I was trained in a very hierarchical French school system, elite
Yeah.
school system with grades, and I was performance oriented. I was results driven, not too patient with anything that took too long to manifest, and very mental. And I didn't even, I mean, in the beginning, I thought, do I have an intuition? Is just something that other people have? It's like I thought I was bad at intuition.
Yeah, yeah, I know.
So fun,
Yeah.
because that's what I live off today. Just being
Yes,
able to see so clearly what needs to happen, and
absolutely. Yeah.
and so it was a paradigm. It just requires, it's an inner rewiring and reprogramming. It's like something needs to realign. That's actually why I have introduced brain training in my programs
Fantastic.
to add more neuroplasticity, so this process becomes easier.
Yeah.
And also trauma healing, by the way, so trigger healing, so we get rid of the old programming faster, because that can take so long. You're just swamped in your old programming until you're a fish in water, and you don't know that you're a fish in water because of all your programming. So suddenly you see, wow, I'm just a fish, and everything is, it's this paradigm shift requires some help, I think.
Yeah.
So I think that for most, when they hear you talk about sourcing, I think it's quite abstract for somebody who is in the regular mindset. But as soon as you have experienced what that means, then it becomes,
you get it.
You get it, and it becomes playful and fun.
It's like, for me, you're a source. I can see that you're a source. So for me, I'm a source of the world turning out brilliantly. Like, I got this. That's how I live. And I don't just mean, I'm producing breakthroughs, or I'm doing courses with people, or I don't mean that. I mean, I got this in the biggest scale that I can have it. I've got it. And I intend to stay right there and keep, creating and sourcing away and collaborating with others to make it so. And no matter what happens, then that's the next propelling me to the next level of it, kind of thing. And I can see that you're the source of the future turning out, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I've always been obsessed with the future, and in the beginning of my career, I was writing about future trends. When I was living in New York City and was a U.S. correspondent there, I was investigating what are the future trends. Then after a little while, it dawned on me, hey, the future is not something that just happens. It's something we co-create.
That's right.
So I became really, really preoccupied with how do we make sure that we create the kind of future we would like to experience?
Yes.
Because that's not a given if you just let the future happen.
Yeah.
So that's why I became really, 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 really into all the remedies, energy work, and creating from pure possibility, which is our possibility in every moment. How to deal with our emotions that still, emotions are like really interesting, that can sort of come little wave where you just like get disorientated and like, can I really trust this? And this is just fantasy. And then you have to, know how to work with this, so it turns into creativity, and then becomes like a new wave you can surf on. So all these things I became very interested in, because I could see that it makes sense for humans to take co-responsibility for the kind of future we want. We certainly can't leave it to leaders.
No. That isn't going to work.
That's the last thing you should do. It's like, don't leave leaders to lead.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. Yes, exactly. But I think the more of us, whether we do it quietly, whether we do it boldly, it doesn't matter. People can
Mm,
do this from home if they want. They can be a source for the world turning out. And I think
mm,
when you live in the fear of the world turning out, then you're adding to the miasma of it in a
yeah.
way. And if you stand in a place that says, what am I a source for? And you won't be the only one. There will be many in the world that will be that. But when you ask that question of yourself, what do I want to source in the world? Then you find what that is, and it might be children, education, or it might be, business evolving into its next paradigm of creation, or whatever it is. But in mine, it's the world. That's the future of the world. That's me. I
Mm,
got that one. And I just keep sourcing breakthroughs in my own way. So, like strategically, if somebody said, well, how are you doing that? Well, I work with big players. They're like maestros of consciousness, energy, power, creation, artistic ability, etc., where we co-create, we innovate consciousness breakthroughs, we source new possibilities, and we live into it in ourselves. We expand intelligence. We remake the collective connection of all life on the planet into a new collective consciousness. We enliven the sentiency of consciousness. Like for me, consciousness 25, 30 years ago was way out there somewhere. Like it was
mm,
where all the wisdom was, and we didn't have it here, and now it's like, it's all around us. It's in the world. It's in the air we breathe. And we've done that work, all of
mm,
us, all together over the recent years. And it's a living presence of that life that wants to thrive, that future that we're all being called into, which
mm,
I absolutely 100% think we're going there, and it already exists. Actually, it already exists as a reality. I'm living in it
mm,
for sure. I'm living in it now, 100%. It's a different version of reality, and I would say you get to know your own power, your own passions, the things you are called to. You don't have to be called to everything. You don't have to try and fix anything either. You just know where you're called, and then you
mm,
go and play there. And
mm,
recently, last year, there's so much joy came into everything. Did you notice that too?
mm.
How much
I was gonna say,
joy?
so much joy and bliss and love and benevolence and faith and excitement. When this year started, I was like, I almost had electrical feelings in my
Yeah.
body. Did you notice that?
Yeah, me
I,
too. Yeah,
just a few days into the new year, I was like, I could hardly contain myself. I was so excited.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It really, that new reality is already here and already being lived by a goodly number of people.
Yeah,
And we're learning to live in it sustainably.
yeah,
And I think that's a big thing, like presencing ourselves, using our power and mastery, accessing what I would call infinite or expansive intelligence, universal intelligence, sensory intelligence. There's so much of
mm,
it, that we can use now, that we have access to different capacities completely now than we did before. So when I was teaching visionary coaching back in 2006, I was talking about transformation, probably how you get someone to fulfill their potential. So
mm,
potential already exists in us, and then it was how do you get them to move into their potential, right? But
mm.
now I'm about to write my 20th book, which is already well underway, called Transcendent Alchemy. it's,
Full
it's the next
circle.
level. And it's not about becoming our potential or fulfilling our potential. It's about becoming something so extraordinary and even new to ourselves
Mm,
that it would just amaze you at what you're becoming. And
mm,
it's that next level and how we learn to be transcendent alchemists
mm,
that realize possibilities into the world, that help people to realize the new possibility of living on planet Earth and what that's like. And so that's part of my latest adventure as well, is that.
And speaking of a future superpower, I think you are such a great example of, what also Einstein said, our greatest gift is imagination, that we have access to this, that we can access the unknown through imagination and help shape the future through our imagination. And that's what you've been doing all along. And I would say also to the people who right now experience a dark moment in their lives, because there are plenty of people who do that. I would say this encouraging news that at the time when my son died, I thought I would never be able to be happy again. I thought that that's not technically possible when you lose a child, because it's so devastating.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah. And then today I must say, I have moments where I am so happy and grateful that it's like I have no words for it. It's like the level of joy and bliss and happiness is like 1,000, or like it's so much bigger. And it's not, I would never say it's because he died. Of course not. It's not because he died.
It's because he's there with you on the other side, bringing that light and focus to you. Yeah.
He has given me so many gifts, but one of the gifts he's given is that when the heart breaks, it actually expands if you allow it to expand. And when the new wiring is created, it's so much stronger and bigger than before. So I think it's an interesting feature with humanity, that we have that ability. And we also see, some of the let's not forget all the people who live under horrendous conditions around the world. We see that those are the tribes that sing and dance and help each other through crisis. They have so much to teach us about how they go through devastation, because they do that with some kind of actually access to source that makes them unstoppable and invincible. So I think that we have a lot of good role models in the world that we can look at and find out. And so the other thing I wanted to say, because you are creating, I would say one of the things I've noticed is always saving me out of the darkness is creativity. Always.
Yes.
It's a sure thing. Inspiration, creation, there you go. You know?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, me too. If I'm not creating something new, I get bored. Absolutely.
What else is there to do?
Yeah, I completely get that. But again, I like what you're saying. It's some of the most horrible moments in our life, or our concern for the world, could be the thing that propels us forward into who we're meant to be, into what we're meant to contribute. And if you recognize, the sooner you recognize that, the sooner you get on that path, the easier that path becomes, I think.
Yeah.
And it's like you become a contribution in some way. You become a creative being who's adding to the world in some way, in whatever way we can. So, yeah. Beautiful. Well,
so in sense, all the people in crisis on the world is actually, they are also contributing, because what happens in crisis is that we open up. So more and more people opening up to, what else is possible? Oh, the surrender into, hey, help. That is also opening up for this, that to roll this out on a mass scale. So I think that, if we just look at LA, we will probably see a lot of humility. We get very humble, all of us, when we see how fast our lives can change. But also a lot of compassion, a lot of connectivity and collaboration, but also, Phoenix did rise out of the ashes. When something burns, there's something purifying about it also. So who knows what could come out of it in its tragedy, and I don't underestimate the emotional devastation, but
absolutely,
I also vision that it can really become an expansion for all involved beings.
Yeah, Yeah.
and an
And you have
elevation.
to, I think, just like you did with when your son went, you chose a pathway
Yeah.
up. And I think when we can choose a pathway up, it makes a huge difference. And I do understand that people can spiral and get really low with it, but those are transformational moments. You know, they're really like it's the death rebirth, it's the awakening, it's the emergence of something new in us. And I think for me, the less resistance I've had to myself, to my own identity, to my, whatever, the easier it all becomes. So I can now take the next fairly lightly and graciously and easy, whereas it used to be really challenging. It comes easier now. My
Yeah.
life is a kind of fluid elevator, you could say, with a lot of exciting creation in it. I just love it. I love my life. I'm thrilled to be on planet Earth. I'm thrilled to be walking around on two legs. I think this is the place to be, and this is the time to be in it right
Yeah.
now. It's an amazing time on planet Earth, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And me too. It's very blessed to be part of this transformation and to
yeah,
have the privilege to play an active part. And it's a blessed time to be on Earth. It's also it's
yeah.
not for the faint of heart. It's like so I think if you're here, that's because you're qualified. So it's like
Well, I
uh,
wasn't when I started, I'll tell you that.
well, you
I
had the
don't
potential and you evolved it.
well,
Yeah,
it's
and you
interesting
had fun.
because one of the things I would say to people who are listening to this, like, I was just a normal person way back. You know, you go back 35, 40 years, I was just really normal. Like, I was moving up in the corporate life and trying to be successful and, da 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 da, all that stuff. And I never could have imagined that I am who I am today. I just couldn't have, even if you'd have said back then, I would have said, you are nuts. There's no way I can become that person.
Yeah.
And yet, the moment I stepped onto that path, and for me, it happened when my dad died in
Oh.
1984. My dad died, and for the first time ever, I could feel, I feel him, like as if he was standing behind my shoulder. And
Oh
I could
wow.
feel him for weeks after he died. Like, and it was an opening for me that was so amazing that I just took all the leaps I could take to figure out what that was. And it just opened me, opened me, opened me. And then I kept saying yes to things. Like, and now I say yes to greatness, yes to the world, yes to the universe, yes to the infinite, yes to whatever. I'm like, I'm in. Count, here I am. Like, it becomes an exhilarating way to live life. And it's very practical as well. I run a business. I love what I do. I make some money but from it, and we live a nice life. We live in a nice place. We're really happy together, have a good relationship. It's like I could never have imagined that it would come from doing these wildly bold new things. But it's so wonderful to live like this. It's like I am fulfilled.
Yeah.
And there's so much more to do. I can hardly wait to get at it, but if I left the planet tomorrow, I'd be like, woohoo, like that was fabulous. And how many people get to say that
Yeah.
about their lives? I would wish that for everyone, that they could say that
Yeah.
about their life,
Yeah.
because it's a brilliant way to live like this. So yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the beautiful thing is that you are helping others experience that as well. So anyone who's open to it can actually learn. And it takes a little time. It was a little abstract for me in the beginning. I was like, huh?
Oh,
Intuition,
me too. Me
pattern,
too.
yeah, it was like a learning curve, but then it became so natural. Like I
Yeah.
always think in terms, I always say to leaders, whatever you do, think, behave, it's like at home, at work, and in the world, it has an effect. So I
Yeah.
cannot help myself but think in terms of evolution. It's like
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with assisting evolution in every way I can.
Yeah. When you're a source of something, you have to hold that you're a source all the time because your impact is far greater. So if I don't take the pleasure of dropping anymore into a hole, because that which I am sourcing, which is the world, would just go like this. All the people I know and work with, all the relationships I have, not just close in to me, I mean, everywhere in the world, so you learn to live in the exhilaration of that sourcing and to sustain that field of life all the time. But it's not a hardship, it's a joy. Actually, it's an effortless joy for me to do that. It's not like I have to hold this whole thing. It's not like that. It's a very, very different experience to live in this kind of joyful, creative, transcendent place, So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not living in total bliss all the time, but when I don't, I know what to do to get myself back,
Yeah,
and
me
sometimes
too.
it's reaching out for help. Sometimes
Me
it's, saying, hey, can we have like an emergency call, just because I don't want to cultivate it or swim in it or stay in it too long. I know
Yeah.
this is my cue. There's something that needs to be transformed. So
Yeah.
let me get some help to get it transformed if I can't do it myself.
Yeah.
So that it doesn't.
Yeah.
I'm not there for so long, and I think that's one of the reasons why I love to have leadership groups, because then it goes so much faster. We just help each other.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah,
It makes such a difference, doesn't it? And I
Yeah.
find now for me, what I do, if I very rarely get into any kind of, I don't understand. But if I get into it, what I do is I sit quietly in a reflective space for a while, waiting for the purpose to show its face. Because if I react, it just messes it all up.
Yeah.
So I've learned to just kind of sit quiet while the purpose is going to unfold in front of me. And it does every single time, usually within about 24 hours at the max.
Yeah.
Sometimes less than that. But it's very interesting to be able to live in that way, So, yeah.
Yeah. No, that is the benevolent universe, the user-friendly universe. You ask and you will receive something that you can use for the next step.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a matter of training training those new muscles if they're not so trained already. Then
I like that user-friendly universe. That's brilliant.
Isn't it? It's very user-friendly.
It's brilliant. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I love it.
All right, my dear Soleira, I think we've been talking for an hour now, so let's just we'll talk again soon, because we will need to talk about number 20 also. But for now, I just want to thank you, and I will write in the notes where we can find you, but you can also just mention it so that nobody is doubting where you are.
Yeah,
so
I'm on Facebook, Soleira Green, Soleira Green, like the color. I'm on LinkedIn, and I have a website, soleiragreen.com as well.
Yeah.
So, but I'm also on Substack. I'm doing a podcast on Substack, so they can find me there too. Yeah. Cool.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I could speak with you all night, but I think we'll have it to be important. People who can also do some other things. So thank you so much, Soleira. I love you so much, and thank you for sourcing a world that works for all and is a beautiful place to be.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Bye.
Lots of love. Bye.